So, everyone having a nice relaxing day? The Toronto Maple Leafs have fired Mike Babcock. They said relieved of his duties. I think that is a very gentle way of putting it, although the way this season has gone so far for the Leafs and Mike Babcock, I'd say maybe he was relieved. Let me start by saying this. I have called for a Leafs coaching change for a while. As a Leaf fan, there's no point in hiding it, obviously. I've called for a Leafs coaching change. Now, that does not mean I am tap dancing because Mike Babcock got fired. At the end of the day, the team's record is still horrible, and I'm not gonna over the top celebrate the fact that a guy lost his job. I mean, he made millions of dollars to coach a hockey team. He's going to be fine, but he came here with the best intentions, and he came to the Toronto Maple Leafs with plenty of other suitors. And I know there have been many players who have come out and they've said, oh, he's difficult to play with, oh, I didn't like him. My Commodore, hello. But he seemed like nothing but polite and a good person. I'm talking about it like it's a eulogy. It's not. He's just not going to coach the Leafs anymore. A little bit of history. He joined the Toronto Maple Leafs after the 2014-15 season. That team was terrible. The team that the Leafs iced the next season finished in last, and they still had more points than the team the year before. The reason the Leafs didn't finish last the year before as well is because that was the McEichel draft, and tanking was an Olympic sport. But despite seeing what the Leafs did under Randy Carlyle and then Peter Horachek, remember that little era? That was fun. Mike Babcock decided to join the team. And you know the Leafs, man, they're tied to every rumor ever. They're gonna get this guy, they're gonna get that guy, they're gonna clone Gretzky and throw him on the wing for fun. But it never happened. They never got Bobby Ryan, they never got Jeff Carter, they never got Steven Stamkos. So with the Babcock rumors, I don't believe it. And then in one summer, they somehow managed to get Lou Lamoriello and Mike Babcock. Seeing them at the press conference was like, is someone wearing their skin? But there was this whole thing watching the Leafs private plane, and media came from far and wide. Someone came from Buffalo practically in tears. And at that press conference, Babcock said all the right things. All of them. And number one, I'm sure you know where I'm going, pain's coming. And he was right. And what I learned in all of this is pain is not despair. We had about 9 years of despair before Babcock showed up, at least 9 years me making videos. It was a decade. Pain is not despair. Pain is hope. And that's what the Leafs provided. The Leafs were terrible, but there was an obvious mission of, okay, we're going to tank this season, we're going to trade anyone of value, and we're going to get some picks, and all the good players, we're going to keep them down in the minors, keep those young guys, develop them and everything. And they finally, for one game, called up Nikita Soshnikov, Zach Hyman, Kasperi Kapanen, and William Nylander. I had tickets to that game. I couldn't go. I gave them to my wife instead. I am still kicking myself. I missed all their first career NHL games, and they actually lost that night. They lost 2-1 to Tampa Bay, but they looked good, and for the rest of the season, the kids looked all right. And Connor Brown getting a sniff, and okay. The next year, they're unleashed. William Nylander's elite full-time, Zach Hyman is elite full-time, Connor Brown is elite full-time, Mitch Marner coming up from junior, Austin Matthews, they get the first pick. And somehow, miraculously, that team with an average age of like 15 years old made the playoffs. And they couldn't quite pull it off, but they gave the Caps everything. 6 games, 5 of them go to overtime, 1 double OT, Kasperi Kapanen scoring the winner in that one. And to even get to the playoffs, they're in their second last game of the season, they're playing the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kapanen with the game-tying goal, Connor Brown with the game-winning goal, Austin Matthews with an empty netter to give him 40, a Leafs rookie record. That team was nothing but hope. Next year, let's build on it a little bit. In fact, let's add a couple veterans. Why not add Patrick Marleau? Okay. And again, they make the playoffs. This time they practically sleptwalked their way there. They played the Bruins in round 1. Of course it goes to game 7 and they lose. Okay. We chalk it up to they're a bunch of rookies. Well, sophomores, they don't have the rookie excuse anymore, but okay. The next year, they add John Tavares, and he's a wagon. He scores 47. Mitch Marner puts up 94 points. Austin Matthews still a monster. Morgan Riley finds another gear. Frederik Andersen is one of the best goalies going. Let's go. Oh, but Jake Gardner got hurt. Okay, that's not good. And Travis Dermott got hurt. Oh, okay, that's not good. Hey, they went out and got Jake Muzzin. That'll be good. And that team, basically from January onward, stunk. They weren't very good at all. And you could blame it on injuries and the playoffs come around and the Leafs look pretty good. And they got beat up in game 2. They won game 3. They look pretty good. Game 7, they In the conversation, again, Austin Matthews didn't play enough. Meanwhile, the season before, there was that famous meeting between Babcock and Matthews, that lunch or dinner or whatever it was over the summer. End of year press conference, Babcock sort of refuses to take accountability, or he certainly doesn't say it out loud, whereas Kyle Dubas sort of just absorbs everything. A visibly infuriated Kyle Dubas. And at that moment, the conversation was, let's not be bashful about this. It looked like he wanted to fire him then. Because each year under Babcock, they obviously took steps, and then at some point, they just seemed to plateau. Not to mention the passive-aggressive. Dubas makes an enormous trade for Jake Muzzin, and the first thing out of Babcock's mouth is how he doesn't shoot right-handed. The Nick Patan thing, which it's amazing how often his name comes up on such a big scale. But cooler heads prevail. The Leafs head into the summer. They make a bunch of changes. They got Tyson Barrie. There's a change. Couple boring contract things, but it's okay. This team on paper looks excellent. Let's go. We're now 23 games into the season. They're below 500. They have lost 6 straight, and they frankly, straight up, stink! A lot of negative has been said about Mike Babcock over the past little while, and one thing that you need to get perfectly clear, Mike Stevens said this on theleafsnation.com, you do not luck your way into 700 career wins. So no matter how many Mike Commodore tweets you've seen or whatever from anyone else, the guy's won over 700 games in the National Hockey League. He's got a Stanley Cup. He's got a couple Olympic gold medals. He might know how to coach hockey. But there was a question of managing personalities. He just refused to change in so many ways, and it was annoying that you knew what he thought right away. Sometimes that's good. Other times you're like, after the first preseason game, I don't think Jason Spezza is going to play very much. All of last season, Justin Hall ate more popcorn than minutes. You wouldn't trust or ride his stars? And is it fair to put all the blame on a coach that has accomplished so much? Maybe not. But let me ask you this. Who told you that the National Hockey League is fair? To me, the Wayne Gretzky got traded so anyone can get traded of coaching is Joel Quenneville got fired last year, guys. That guy has over 900 career wins. Do you understand? They said this on Ice Surfing on the last broadcast. Joel Quenneville has more career wins than the Florida Panthers. Like the franchise. So if a team has a head coach and it looks like they've plateaued with that head coach, even worse, the message has gone stale with that head coach and they are regressing with that head coach, why should Mike Babcock be sacred? Why should he be safe? Joel Quenneville wasn't even safe. It is just such a shame with the way that Mike Babcock came in, that the way that it ended. It's sad. From the beginning, he understood this was going to be a process. This guy who makes the playoffs every year, he expects success. He knew he was coming into a last place team. He knew he was coming into a painful process, but he was game for it. He wanted to do it. Whether you liked him or not in the end, you cannot deny he was an enormous part of the Leafs' success over the past few years and an enormous part in their stars becoming stars. But right now, it was time for a change. An obvious change. Sheldon Keefe is now the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we all knew that was going to happen. I was talking to my friends on the podcast. Well, you gotta give him the quarter of the season. No, you don't. The coach of the American Hockey League affiliate has been partnered up with the GM of your hockey team for the better part of the past decade. He's also one of the highest paid coaches in the American Hockey League. And sure enough, this flawed team with a bunch of different players had the same flaws despite the different players. I get giving Mike the benefit of the doubt and giving him a quarter of the season to see if he can figure it out. I just wish it didn't take until the middle of a road trip in Arizona for them to figure it out. I don't think that's fair to anybody. How is that going to help the players who are already out on the road in the middle of this road trip? How is that going to help Sheldon Keefe, who tomorrow night is about to coach his first NHL game? Sheldon Keefe's job is very simple, I think. It's detail and it's giving a damn. Babcock's final game as Leafs coach against the Vegas Golden Knights in Vegas. The team, for the most part, played a great game. A lack of attention to detail resulted in catastrophic mistakes that cost them the game. And that is the story of every game this season, not to mention coming out flat and giving up the first goal in 18 out of 23. Beyond attention to detail, Keefe's got to motivate. He's got to get the most out of this group. And Dubas better hope he does, because everyone seems to think this team is great on paper. If they are, and Keefe is a good motivator, he'll motivate them to be their absolute best. And if he can't do that, guess where all the eyes turn next? You might say, well, the St. Louis Blues last year, they were pretty terrible and they fired their coach. Look at how that turned out for them. Yeah, I think the reason we talk about it so much is because it was weird, man. You're not supposed to be in last and fire your coach and win the cup. That only works if the team you have is good. And well, now that you mention it, I suppose it worked for the St. Louis Blues. If the Leafs' over half a century wait for a Stanley Cup ends with this carnival, would anyone be surprised? It's almost fitting. Until then, I'll believe it when I see it. So good luck to Sheldon Keefe, who's about to coach his first NHL game. Good luck to Mike Babcock, although he does not need it at all. He's weighed down by his Stanley Cup ring and all his gold medals and his 700 wins. He's going to be just fine, and he taught these guys a lot of things. Good luck to Kyle Dubas, because all eyes are on him now. And good luck to the players. You wear a little bit of this yourself, don't you? So leave a comment in the comment section down below. Check out sportsnet.ca. You know we're full of all kinds of content regarding this. I'm going to be writing an article. Who knows, by the time you watch this, maybe it'll be up. And that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Hey, you're head coach now.